I'm Ben Stiers. I'm a doctoral student at the University of Kentucky, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to improve your tambourine shake roll. The first thing that you need to keep in mind when you're working on your shake roll is that having your tambourine in a vertical position like this is going to give you the most legato sound. So that's something that you'll definitely want to keep in mind. Always double check and make sure that your tambourine is at a very vertical angle. The second thing you're going to need to know is the actual arm motion that's involved with your tambourine shake roll. The basic motion that we're going to use is going to be very much like either the marimba technique if you use Stevens' technique, or the left hand if you play traditional grip on snare drum. That same sort of rotational technique is going to be what we're going to be using quite a bit. So you can start out working with this technique by putting the tambourine in your hand and just getting used to the feel of shaking it back and forth like that. You can even practice this away from the tambourine just by moving your hand like this and getting used to this feeling. What's really important with this is that you relax and try to keep your fingers and your wrist and everything just as relaxed as possible, so that when you put the tambourine in there, it can be free to move as much as you want it to. Now, in order to get a really good, really smooth sounding tambourine roll, what we also need to incorporate is just a little bit of wrist motion, a little bit of hinge motion back and forth. It just takes a little bit of this technique to really make your tambourine roll nice and smooth. So what you can do to practice this is actually practice going back and forth between this rotational motion and this back and forth hinge motion. So we start out with the rotation and kind of morph the tambourine sound into the hinge motion without interrupting the roll. And if you can hear that, what we have kind of in between the rotational motion and the back and forth motion is sort of that middle ground, where we're mostly rotating, but there's just a little bit of hinge motion in there too. That's the sound that we're going for. That's sort of the ideal. So when you roll, you've got mostly that rotation, but just enough of that hinge to make it not sound so shooka, 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 and it actually blends into a nice smooth roll like that. So practicing back and forth between the two is a really good approach to take. Now, the other thing to keep in mind with your tambourine technique is that most of your tambourine shake rolls are going to start and end with a very clearly defined attack. A good way to think about this is if you have your tambourine in your 45-degree angle basic playing position, you can think about starting with an attack that's going to knock the tambourine into a vertical position, play your shake roll, and then at the end of the roll, think about knocking the tambourine back into a 45-degree angle. Now, as far as your beginning and ending attacks go, obviously you're going to want to put different amounts of accent based on the musical situation that you're in. So you can either use your fingers bunched together in the head, or you can use the flat of your palm, or you can use the knuckles of your fist, just like you're knocking on a door. All of those are going to give you just a little bit different articulation and different colors and different sounds and things like that that you can play with. So that's the basics. That's really all you need to know to get started with your basic tambourine shake roll technique.